Welcome to the Delmarva Almanac. Each week we connect you to the best of Delmarva. Like other almanacs, our aim is to tell you a little bit about our past, our present, and events in the near future. I'm your host, Dana Kester McCabe. In 1835, Thompson Holmes of Pharsalia, Virginia, wrote a long rambling letter to the editor of a publication called the Farmer's Register. It was about raising horses in his part of the country. He made a less than positive comparison between our Chincoteague pony and the celebrated Shetland pony, but he did give particular flattery to the annual tradition of pony penning fairs that were held on Chincoteague. He wrote nostalgically of such events 30 years earlier, and how those of 1835 could not possibly compare to what he called their ancient glory. These festivals were held annually in June at various barrier islands on the Atlantic coast of Maryland and Virginia. As Mr. Holmes describes them, they were great spectacles which attracted just about everyone living in a 50-mile radius and beyond. The crowds came to see the horses rounded up by the saltwater cowboys on the island, who brought them to town on barges to be sold. There was food, music, and dancing. According to Mr. Holmes, it was a big attraction for women who came intent on romance. Holmes said there was no way to adequately describe the excitement of the scene. The annual event probably would have continued to be just a charming country fair, attended mostly by nearby residents, except that it attracted horse lovers like writer Marguerite Henry, who came from as far away as Milwaukee to visit Chincoteague. Marguerite had suffered from rheumatic fever as a child, which left her bedridden for 6 years. Reading and writing about animals became her passion. When Marguerite was 11, she sold her first story to a magazine for $12. This set her on the path of becoming a renowned children's author, known mostly for books about horses and for her collaboration with illustrator Wesley Dennis. After her own experience on the island, Marguerite was inspired to write the iconic children's novel Misty of Chincoteague. And for those who need reminding, or those who never had the opportunity as a youngster to read this charming book, Misty of Chincoteague is the story of a young brother and sister who want to buy and keep their own Chincoteague pony. The story is based in part on the Beebe family, who lived on the island and raised horses there. While vacationing, Marguerite Henry met and fell in love with their foal named Misty, a pinto with a white patch on her side that looked like a map of the United States. She wanted to buy the horse and write a book about it. The Beebes took some convincing and only agreed to the sale if Marguerite would promise to include their grandchildren in the story, which she did. Misty and her parents, Pied Piper and Phantom, were not actually part of the famous wild herd, though they were descendants of it. The book's great success led her to write 3 more following the story of Misty and other Chincoteague ponies. The book was made into a movie, which was filmed on location in Chincoteague, with local children acting the parts. It was released to the theater-going public in 1961. Life magazine did a photo spread, and the film got a lot of attention. The sweet, quiet little film is a slice of Americana, but critics at the time were less than kind, calling it bland. Nonetheless, the island premiere was a big deal for locals. Misty was brought back for a visit and allowed her hoof prints to be immortalized in concrete outside the Roxy movie theater. She and members of the Beebe family led a parade down the main street. Misty then became a bona fide tourism sensation, with all sorts of trinkets now sold in her honor, and her full-size statue gracing the town's Robert Reed waterfront park. Misty lived with Marguerite Henry and her husband in Illinois, traveling around the country to delight children and promote the books. In 1957, she came home to be bred with other Chincoteague stock and to have her own foals. She died in 1972, where she started out on the Beebe Ranch. For many years, you could see the stuffed remains of Misty and her foal Stormy there. They were last displayed at the Chincoteague Museum, which still hosts an elder hostel course on the story of Misty and other Chincoteague ponies. Marguerite Henry died at the age of 95 in 1997. Recently, people from around the world mourned the passing of a chestnut stallion with a blonde mane and tail named Surfer Dude. He had been a favorite of visitors to Chincoteague and was probably the most well-known Chincoteague pony since Misty. The Chincoteague pony became an officially registered breed in 1994. Naming rights are auctioned off each year for those foals that remain on the island, with proceeds going to their care. This happens online for the herd that lives on the Maryland side of the island and at the annual Pony Penning Festival for those in Virginia. Well, that's all for this edition of the Delmarva Almanac. We'd like to thank our community partners, the Friends of Delmarva Public Radio, the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and underwriters EatDrinkBuyArt.com for their help in bringing this program to you, our audience. Our theme music was provided by Brightside Studio. This show has been a Moonshell production. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, may the rhythms and tides of Delmarva bring you good fortune.